Shahar. Welcome back to my channel. So, I have to find it because I forgot to. This is what I'm doing. Found it. I have the list right here. Oh, yeah, I have all my videos I want to do on my phone. So, like, yeah. So, hi Shahar. Welcome back to my channel. So, I just did ranking Ever After High seasons, which was only 5 seasons before it was canceled, and I'm now doing all 15. I'm ranking all 15 of Monster High movies. Most of the movies I don't outright hate. I might not be as big on some of them as others. There's one that I absolutely hate, one that I just kind of dislike, and you know, there's a couple of issues with the animation, but yeah. So, let's get started. Ready? Okay, so at number 15 is A New Girl at School. I can't stand that one. Maybe it's because I don't like Frankie. She's probably one of my least favorite characters. I mean, I think there's a couple characters I just like a little bit more than her, but I don't like her at all. And this one has a lot to do with her, and she gets a crush on Deuce, and then accidentally gets Deuce, and she got Cleo to hate her. She got Cleo and Deuce to break up, and then but she did end up getting them back together. But I do not like this movie at all. There's not much I can really say about it because that's pretty much the point of the entire movie, and I can't stand the movie. I only saw it once, and I will never see it again. I think this was the first of the movies. I think I don't know what came first, the movies or the webisode. Well, this movie would have had to come first. I think it was like a premiere to the webisode, I guess, and then the rest of the movies, because this is when it introduced Frankie and all the other characters. So yeah. So yeah, I'm not a fan. Number 14 is Electrified. It's a sequel to the reboot, which I actually don't. I mean, the first part of the reboot wasn't actually that bad. It's not nearly as good as any of the original movies, but I honestly don't think it's that bad, to be honest. I love how it kind of centers around Draculaura. It centers around Frankie too, but I'm not a fan of Frankie. But Draculaura is my favorite character, and I love the movies that center around her. Well, she's one of my favorite characters. Her, Twyla, Abby, Cleo, Deuce, Laguna. But I think my top 3 are definitely Draculaura, Twyla, and Abby. And I wish it would show Twyla and Abby more. But Draculaura is one of the main characters in all the movies, but especially in the first part of the reboot, at least. The second part of the reboot, even though she's still technically supposed to be like main character, it does kind of center around Frankie a little bit more. The first part of the reboot centers around Draculaura a little bit more, and I'm not a fan of Frankie. Maybe that's also why it's really low on my list. But it's like, I love that it has a lot to do with Twyla. Like, that's probably my favorite part of the movie, the Twyla scenes, because I love her, and Twyla's amazing, and yeah, so so maybe it could be a little bit higher up because of Twyla, but at the same time, just no, because it's the reboot, sequel to the reboot. But yeah, I'm really glad that I showed Twyla more, and it had to do with Claudine's fashion. And one thing I do not like about the reboot isn't just the animation, but it has a lot to do with the fact that there's a lot of characters that they just didn't write in this. Claude doesn't exist, which makes me sad because Dracula and Claude were my favorite couple, definitely. And it makes me sad that they just didn't write him in. They didn't write in Howleen either, which sucks because Twyla and Howleen were one of my favorite friendships. Even though I didn't really get into it that much, only that one movie, 13 Wishes, which also makes me sad, but I'll get into that later. What else do I need to say? Like, I don't know if I have much more to say. I mean, Monica's the villain again. So yeah, moving on. Number 13 is Fright On. I actually really liked the concept of the storyline. The storyline itself was amazing. The reason why it's so far back on, honestly, if I did move it up, I'd probably only move it up one. Even if I did ignore the animation now, because that is what bumped it back. Because the rest of, because it's part of the original series. It came after New Girl at School, and then they changed the animation and made all those other movies before the reboot came. And if I did move it up, I would only move it up one, because I still do like the other movies better than this one. But the animation did bump it back one, because I don't like the animation. But I love the concept because it has lots to do with Draculaura and Claude, and Cleo and Julia's friendship too, which I like because I love their friendship, and I don't think it gets shown as much as it probably should. And then, so yeah, Van Helm, Scream, and Crabgrass band together to keep monsters separate, try and close Monster High, but and even kidnap Draculaura and Howleen and Mistress Bloodgood, and then Abby and Frankie find them, but they all get captured and they have to try to escape. And Draculaura and Claude have a lot of issues because of the whole battle, because even though they want to separate all monsters, the monsters they want to separate the most are vampires and werewolves. Yeah. And they do have another movie like this later on with the same kind of concept, except, well, not really the same kind of concept, but there's issues between two different breeds of monsters, which is saltwater and freshwater, which, yeah, so, but I just love the concept because, Claude and Claudine end up looking for Draculaura and Howling, and they find them, and then they, just as they're about to go out, the vampires were about to go out this battle, that's when they come up, because vampires think the werewolves kidnapped Draculaura, the werewolves think vampires kidnapped Howleen, so they have to kind of like show that, no, it was Van Helm, Scream, Crabgrass, they're trying to split us all up. So yeah, they end up saving school, and I love how Cleo's like, have you guys met my boyfriend Deuce? And then Deuce takes off his glasses and turns into stone. So yeah, that was awesome. And then Claude's childhood friend, what was his name? What was his name? Crap. Starts with an R. I almost said Ramses, but no, that's Cleo's dad. What's his name? I don't remember his name now. But he accepted Draculaura and Claude's relationship at the end, and yeah. So number 12, I have Welcome to Monster High. Like I said, the first one wasn't actually that bad. Still not as good as the original. That's why it's so far back, because the rest of the movies are part of the original series. I love how it's centered around Draculaura. At first, Draculaura and Dracula are the only monsters it shows. And Draculaura learns how to fly, and then she's very lonely, and she ends up meeting Frankie, and then they decide to create Monster High, becoming the co-founders. And then, which is nothing I don't like, them finding Monster High, like, it's really similar to the book series, honestly. One of the book series. There's two different book series. One, which the Ghoul Friends series I've already spoke about on my other channel, the BookTube channel, Secret Books. And then I'm going to be rereading the other series soon and do videos on that. Real soon, after the book I'm currently reading, I'm going to reread that series. So yeah. But yeah. They end up finding a lot of monsters: Claudine, Cleo, Laguna. And, so yeah, they create Monster High, Dracula becoming the, principal, I guess. And yeah, so they find a bunch of monsters along with the map log and the necklace Draculaura wears, and they have to say the word to find the monster, this certain phrase or something. And then yeah, so, and then meet Monica and her Zomboys, and she keeps trying to wreck them, and Draculaura really wants to prove that normies aren't so bad, and she's obsessed with this one normie singer who turns out to be a monster. And she gets kidnapped by Monica, and Draculaura has to have a race with Monica, like not race, was fights with Monica to see who wins, and so yeah, and I think, and I just love that it has a lot to do with Draculaura, you know, and I'm still upset that Claw wasn't on there because they're my favorite ship, and you know, I love how she has to have the final fight with Monica, which was really nice, and it showed what kind of big heart she has, because even though she did defeat Monica, she was really worried that she was going to hurt her. So Draculaura saved Ari, who she didn't know was Ari at the time, because she's like the famous Norma singer who didn't have to be a monster. So yeah. Next is Great Scarier Reef. Now this was a great movie. It's now obviously not my favorite or to be higher up, but it focuses on Laguna, which I love because I love Laguna, and even though she is kind of part of the main friend group, sometimes I feel like the movies do forget about her sometimes, which sucks because she's one of the favorite characters. She's even in the theme song and the theme and this and that. So I was really glad that they finally had a movie surrounded around her. I mean, so yeah, they end up. One thing I didn't understand was when they ended up in the ocean, or no, a sea or whatever, to Laguna's home. Laguna and Gale changed into other sea monsters. I mean, maybe I could kind of understand Gale, because even though he is a sea monster, he's freshwater, not saltwater. So maybe because he's in saltwater, he has to change into some saltwater theme, because he didn't have to wear his helmet anymore either. So yeah, I kind of understand Gale because he had to turn into like a saltwater monster, but I don't understand Laguna because she's already a saltwater monster. She shouldn't have had to change. I understand everyone else having to change because they're not water monsters at all, you know. So yeah, they all had to learn how to swim, which was fun. Almost as fun as them learning how to fly on Haunted. But so they go to Laguna's family. It really gets into Laguna's little sister Kelpie. Laguna more than anything wants to go back to Monster High, because it's like this whole movie about her having stage fright, and she meets her childhood friend Kala, who ended up embarrassing her, and is the reason why she ended up having stage fright. And you find out that Kala is actually the daughter of the Kraken, and she tells the Kraken to like destroy Monster High, so they have to stop her, and Laguna ends up talking to Kala and make her realize that, because like everyone was afraid of the Kraken, so Kala always felt kind of, you know, ashamed of who she was, of her family, and Laguna convinces Kala that Monster High is like a play, which happens in almost every movie where like someone feels like an outsider, and they're like, hey, come to Monster High where we accept all kinds of monsters. So yeah, but she does, and her and the Kraken decide to help fix the school that the Kraken kind of destroyed. How many times do they destroy that school? I swear, Monster High is almost as bad as thinking Hogwarts, okay? I love Hogwarts, I love Monster High, but at the same time, how many times did they almost die there? Like, why do their parents keep sending them off to these boarding schools that are just doomed? Like, oh my gosh, I never saw the connection between Monster High and Hogwarts until like now, so, wow, okay. But yeah, so moving on. Next is Escape from Skull Shores, another good movie. This one has a little more to do with Frankie, maybe that's why I bumped it down a peg or two, because I don't like Frankie, but most of the movies are honestly Frankie-centered. I mean, later on they started making movies that weren't Frankie-centered. They even started making movies where Frankie was barely on it, which I love, which we'll get into that later when I get to one of those movies. But yeah, so in this movie, they end up, it's spring vacation, they decided to go to Laguna's home, but then something happens, and oh yeah, their boat just gets destroyed, that's what happens. And so they go on someone else's boat who takes them to an island, Bartleby Farnham and his minion, who turns out to be a monster, who Bartleby kind of just shuns. and who ends up helping the ghouls later on. But the entire time, Gil's like terrified to meet Lagoon's family because he's from freshwater, she's from saltwater. He's sure that he's sure that they'll hate him. And Laguna's the entire time suspicious of Bartleby and just wants to get to her house or her home or whatnot. And then they meet those Tikis who do not like Cleo, so they also have, and then they find out that Frankie looks just like with her new hairdo that she did for spring vacation. I don't understand how these ghouls can like cut their hair and then 5 minutes later be like, oh yeah, my hair is all like long again, yay, because both Cleo and Frankie did that in this movie. Anyways, moving on. She looks just like this normie that the beast that Bartleby Farnham is trying to get looks like. I can't speak. She looks just like this normie that Andy had a thing for, and Bartleby Farnham's been trying to get Andy. And she doesn't know how he's been hiding, because to Bartleby Farnham he's this huge monster. Later on, when he threatens Frankie, he ends up turning to human size, and he's like, that's how you evaded me all these years. But yeah, so Andy gives himself up to save Frankie and the ghouls, and some people ship Andy and Frankie. I don't. I ship Frankie with Nathan. But yeah, they end up going to Monster High, but Bartleby Farnham end up following them, and makes Andy all angry because he turns to that monster when he's angry, and then he almost destroys the school, and he was willing to go with Bartleby Farnham, and then Frankie's like, no, okay, in Monster High we accept you all. Like I said, I had that speech like once a movie, in every movie, I swear. But that's when the guy with elfin ears ended up turning on Bartleby Farnham, helping them and staying at Monster High. It does show him for a brief second in one of the other movies, but that's about it. You never hear from him again. And this is one of the early on movies. So yeah. I have a list somewhere on my phone of the movies in order. I'll have to find it. I know where it is though. So maybe I can tell you what the movies are in order in case none of you know. So anyways. What's my train of thought? Of course I did. But yeah, so, and then he ends up getting all this stuff on him, and then the monster catchers, I guess, I don't think they're really monster catchers, but like Bartleby Farnham got them to come to Monster High. He's like, I have this whole freak for you, and then they thought he was the freak, and they lock him up. So yeah. Next on my list is, sorry, I have a spooky theme on my phone for Halloween. Yeah. Next is Ghouls Rule, placing it at number 9. Ghouls Rule was really good. It got really into normies this time. Like, a lot of times they mention normies, but they never actually really got into normies. But in this movie, they were actually, a lot of normies were actually main characters. Like, it has a lot more to do with Jackson too, which I love because I love Jackson. The villain was a normie who ends up changing how she views things. Cleo ends up being Cleo and is like, becomes like Holt's spokeskeeper, who's like doing all these things in normie, which he's really not. This Van Helmscream's daughter, Lilith Van Helmscream, along with 2 goons who are doing stuff, saying it as monsters, to get the sheriff and the people to go after the monsters. They end up capturing Holt, thinking he really is doing all this, and they don't realize the Holt is Jackson right now. And Holt, and they send him to the trick or treat thing, whatever that was. I still want to know what that kind of does. Like, it sounds, I don't know. But anyways, so yeah. But then Lilith and Cleo both realized they were wrong, and they decided to help. And then they get him out, and then Chad and Claire, who's also main characters, who were friends of Jackson's and helping them the monsters, Freehold, they all band together, and same with Lilith's two little goons who were helping. They were like, Sheriff, you failed us before, we're all gonna go after. But it was all just a ruse. They wanted everyone to go to Monster High, so they all did, and they were in their Halloween clothing and whatnot, and they were like, we're all not, you know, it's like we're all the same, we're not that different. And they're like, we have to, and then they all started saying stuff that they are similar, like we have the same hopes, same desires, same dreams, same fears, and they were saying how they're not wrong, and the sheriff's like, oh, I don't care about this crap, you're all going to jail, even though technically at this point they are in the monster territory, so I don't think he could technically arrest it there, but I guess he didn't care. But then all of a sudden some of the normies, like Chad and Claire, and then the two goons and Lilith, because they're the only ones that really gets into besides the sheriff, all starts like saying, I'm a monster, I'm a monster, I'm a monster, kind of like Radio Rebel. And then and they were like, Sheriff, are you gonna arrest all of us? And then he's like, look at that, I'm off the clock, bye. Which was funny. But then they had that whole monster normie party where they all dance and have fun. Yeah, so. Next is Scare City Frights. This was a good movie, and it's centered around Claudine, and she gets this I can't think of the word, but she gets this like opportunity to go make designs and scare us under her my mind's not here today. Hard week at work. So yeah, so but it's like her hero's not the right word. Like, what is she, like her idol? There, that's the word I'm looking for. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Mullins Taylor Gautier, who turns out to be the bad guy, and who like kidnaps someone with, because she's like dried out of inspiration. She kidnaps with someone with plenty of inspiration, forces them to give her draw her like new outfits so she can make them and pass them off as her own. Rochelle has a big part in this too, because she goes with them for supervision, and Rochelle, Frankie, and Julia decide to help Rochelle try and find Garrett, who just kind of stopped writing her letters stuff. Rochelle thought he didn't love her anymore. Turns out he was locked up by Monticello Gautier because he was her victim before, you know, Claudine. But you also meet Skeleta and Jennifer, who are both also but there's only room for one of them, so they have to kind of battle out, see who has the best. But then Claudine ends up taking away her own fashion. Her kind of stops with her own fashion, you know, and starts doing what she knows Monticello Gautier will want. And then Skeleta and Jennifer even confronts her about it. And then Claudine wins and gets thrown into a cage. But luckily, Claude, Deuce, and Heath decide to follow them because Claude missed Draculaura, Deuce missed Cleo, and then Heath just wanted to leave school. So, and then with Claude has known Claudine almost his entire life. I think he's just like 2 years older than her. So he knows her scent, so he follows her and finds her in the dungeon, breaks her out, along with Rochelle, Frankie, and Garrett. And then they find everyone else. Dracula and Claude have a sweet reunion, Cleo and Deuce have a sweet reunion, and then Heath was all like, does anyone miss me? And Abby's like, I did, a little bit. And I know they kind of make it seem like Jennifer and Heath had a relation, because from the Boo York, when Caddy was singing and showed all those couples dancing and showed the two of them dancing, but I don't like them as a couple just because they both have firepower. Please, Heath and Abby would be an awesome couple, and I ship it hard. I ship it like so much, and I'll forever be bitter that they never got together. But anyways, moving on. So yeah, and then they end up deciding to stop Monticello Gautier, but making their own fashions Claudine, they didn't think that at that time, but Claudine, along with Jennifer Escalita and Garrett, all being fashion designers, all help, and they get this whole new line of clothing and ambush her little fashion contest thingy she was having, and showing all the new designs. And then then the reporters were all just ignoring Montel Gauthier, and then she just kind of disappeared. I guess she died. She needs people to remember her, to know her, to be alive. I don't know. Wasn't really all clear to that point, but yeah. And then Claudine's like, and the reporter's like, how do you feel being a new person to tell what's like yes and no in fashion? She's like, we all have our individual styles, and that's all okay. You know, fashion is about pursuing how you look, how you feel, and so everyone should be able to say what they want to wear, this and that. And then they go back to Monster High. So yeah, that was fun. And they did have that little mini thing at the end where it's like, do you want to know how we get home? And it's like, they end up having to split up in 2 planes, and Frankie and Claudine's bags get mixed up, and Frankie ends up with Claudine's little book who kind of came to life, a fashion book who came to life. So, and then this book ended up running away and going to all these places, so they have to follow it to try and get it before they can go back to Monster High. And turns out that the reason why the book was doing that because the book wanted them to see all these other places and explore and have another adventure. So yeah. Next is Friday Night Fights. I love this movie. It was a lot of fun. They were roller skating. Yay! Roller skating's fun. But it's kind of a sexist movie, to be honest. But that's the whole point of it, because no one thinks girls can do something like Scholar-made rollerblades because it's too dangerous for a ghoul. But then when Claude gets injured, and because of the Gargoyle team who were cheating, this is also the first episode with Rochelle because she's part of the Gargoyle team. No one knows she's a girl, and then she ends up transferring to Monster High because she likes their team better. And then Claude didn't want them doing this, especially Jackie Laura, because he loves her and was worried for her, but she had to do this because it was who she is, and she had to help her friends. And because the girls decided to make their own team since most of their team was injured and they can't do it now anyways, so they all decided to make this team, and they were made fun of a lot, but then they actually end up getting better. Especially Laguna was really good, and they end up recruiting Operetta, who was really good, and Twilight even tried to trick Operetta, and they did it on purpose because they knew that Twilight would go after Operetta, and that Operetta fed the false information to Twilight to give to the Gargoyles. So yeah, so that was smart. And then Dracula was so bad she didn't want to, so she decided to leave the team. And then Claude, the lost boyfriend, believed in her, and he's like, I believe in you, you can do this. And so two people, I don't remember which two people, kind of just fleeing Dracula, and she skates past the Gargoyles and wins. So yeah, it was really sweet. I loved it. Next is 13 Wishes. This is actually my mom's favorite. And I do love the movie. Obviously, it's not in my top 5, but it almost was. But there's a few movies I love more. But I don't know, this movie was hard to place because at the same time I wanted to put it a little bit in because it has a lot to do with Twilight, and Twilight is one of my all-time favorite characters. So I wanted her, and I thought about putting this movie higher, but I decided to do it by storyline, not just because it has a lot to do with one of my favorite characters. So yeah, Halloween ends up finding Gigi, who is a genie and can be granted 13 wishes, and Gigi's shadow, Wisp, ends up kind of manipulating her, tricking her into making these evil wishes like she makes a lot of monsters end up going to Gigi's lamp, and then they're replaced by shadows, and Twilight figures it out 'cause she's like, no shadows They are shadows. She's like really smart, and I wish I got more into her smarts. I think she, honestly, I think she could be like the second smartest girl in school after Gulia, of course. But yeah. But she's just really cool and awesome and sweet and shy, and she's just amazing in every way possible. Like, I can't find a fault in her. And I love Twyla and Halloween's friendship. I wish I would have gotten more into that. But yeah. So Twyla ends up helping the ghouls get out of the lamp, and because she's the one that figured out that Wiz has the last shard, so they all got out of the lamp because they were looking for the 13 shards to create the mirror. That's the only way that can break Halloween out of her spell, because she's about to like dominate the world. And I actually have the 13 Wishes game. It can be difficult at times, but it's also fun. So yeah, but in the game, it's like instead of them stopping Wiz, they didn't stop Wiz in this game, and Wiz won. So it's about them trying to stop her now, I guess. But it's fun. But 13 and then.
My cries chill the living.
But 13 Wishes is a good movie, and they end up winning, and they show Howling the memories of her family and friends like Twyla, and it's just really sweet, you know. And then Twyla the entire time is like, popularity is not important, I don't want to be popular, this and that, and you know, you shouldn't be popular. And then Cleo invited them to the party, and then Howling's like, no, I think I'm good just hanging out with Twyla. And Twyla's like, maybe a party could be fun. And she's like, really? And she's like, yeah, it gets a little tiring hanging out with you. And then she's like, just kidding. And I love the friendship. I wish it was shown more. But yeah, so they defeat Wiz. Well, Wiz ends up turning good and becoming the Lamp, and Gigi ends up staying at Monster High. So yeah. Next, number 5. We're on the top 5. Ready? Freaky Fusion. I love this movie. It's about the hybrids, and a lot of monsters don't like hybrids because like they are two different monsters, you know. And a lot of people also don't like the thought of hybrids because like if two different monsters get together, they have no idea what their baby will look like, what kind of powers they will have, and I guess it's just a scary concept. But the hybrids seem to make it work. And then the hybrids kind of stick to themselves because they go through school to school because of bullying, and they're just really, so they just think it's better to keep to themselves. Nathan falls for Frankie though, and I did kind of like that ship. I don't like Frankie, but I did kind of like that ship. And Bonita's my favorite out of the hybrids. I wish I got into her a little bit more. But yeah, they do that, and then the ghouls end up becoming hybrids because they go to like Rebecca's dad's shop where Twilight touches something, and then they all go to the past, and then because of Frankie, they almost ruin the past, so they have to kind of go back to the present, and then but Frankie's grandfather ends up following, and they all end up becoming hybrids, and then their play gets ruined, and then the hybrids have to teach them how to, one has to take control over the other, and they have to try to figure out how to live in two bodies in one body, and they end up eventually getting the hang of it. I like the whole montage of them like training, and they're doing really bad and they're doing really good, and I like that training montage. But yeah, overall it was an amazing movie, and they do get out of the hybrids, and Frankie's grandfather decides to make a someone who loves him a son, I guess, and but he turns all evil and destroys the school. Like I said, how many times do they sneak and destroy that school? It's Hogwarts all over again. I'm not even joking with you people. Moving on. But anyways, but Frankie gets to his grandfather. He ends up making Frankie's dad, obviously, so Frankie can still be born or created, more like. And so yeah. But they save the day, the same monster I like always, and yeah, so that's the movie. but the hybrids end up staying at the school because, like I said, in every movie they have to mention we accept everyone. So yeah. Number 4 is Boo York, Boo York. I love this movie so much. It's a musical, and man, when did this movie come out? Because I was already in love with the movies at this point, and I remember, I think it came out around the not long after my brother was born. Cause I don't know why I remember this, but I remember just being in the hospital with my mom, and on the TV was a commercial of Boo York, Boo York, and I was like, I really want to see that. Like, but anyways, it's an amazing movie, and I love the scene, and I love Caddy and Pharaoh as a couple. They became like one of my favorite ships. It has a lot to do with Cleo and Deuce because they're one of my favorite ships too, which made me happy. And it was sad when they broke up, but Deuce did it because Niffer tricked him into thinking that's what's best for her because she's like this amazing royal ghoul and he's just an average Joe, which is actually lyrics to the song. You're a royal ghoul and I'm an average Sorry, I love that song. My favorite song, that's not my favorite song. It's probably third. Second would probably be Search Inside, which is a song Caddy sang. And then the first would probably be, what's it called? Boo York, Boo York. That Caddy and Pharaoh sing when Pharaoh reveals that he's Pharaoh and not just Seth. But anyways, moving on. Ramses is trying to trick Cleo into marrying Seth, and Nefer made her think that it's what everyone wants and she wants to please the people. And this is after they broke up, so her and Deuce. And then Seth doesn't want this either because at this point he already met Caddy. They went on this adventure together around town looking at everything, and he's falling for her, and yeah, so but then I love the song with Boo York, Boo York. He tosses his thing away and he's like I'm Pharaoh. You are now walking out with the very best rapper from around the way. I want to say hello, hello. People call me by my own name, so lame. You can just call me Pharaoh. Ain't nobody stopping this. Pharaoh's on top of this. Coming back to life straight out of these sarcophagus. Robber's my name. Okay, I knew that song pretty well at the beginning, so I'm proud of myself for knowing that much off the top of my head. But like I said, it's my favorite song. I've listened to it countless of times. All the songs in the musical and some of the other songs that are on some of the other movies. But yeah, so, and then they sing together, run off, but then Nefer takes their voices and their attraction for each other, and then they have to stop. Toralei ends up getting it, and then they have to, oh, that's also one of my favorite songs, where Toralei singing, and then Luna stops her and gets Caddy her voice back, and then Caddy starts singing. That's an awesome one.
Let my cries chill.
That's an awesome song too. That's actually probably second, and then Search Inside, and then the breakup song. I can't think of what it's called now. Oh, I think it's called like It's Over or It's Not Over, something like that. No, it's called This Can't Be Over, right? I don't know now. Crap. Oh well. And then they get Caddy's voice back. They run to stop Cleo and Pharaoh and give Pharaoh his voice back. And then Deuce comes along and he's like, I love you. And Cleo's like, oh yay, happy ending. Then while all that's happening, Abby and I want to say Twyla. I might be wrong. No, is it Twyla? I don't remember. Abby along with someone else. Oh, it was Gulia. What was I thinking? Twyla? I don't know. But it was Abby and Gulia realized that an astronaut was heading to New York, and then it turned out to be Astronova, who had fallen asleep, and they had so yeah, and they sing that final song, and then Pharaoh's mom was able to accept that Pharaoh wanted to rap instead of, you know, rule, and which is more than I can say for Ramses, because like he still can't accept it. But yeah, so yay. Next is number 3 is Haunted. I love this movie, and I love it so much. Like, they go to the ghost world in the monster universe, and to Haunted High, and it has a lot to do with Spectra. And she meets some of her older friends like Kiyomi, who I absolutely love, River, Midnala, and her, and then she meets Porter, who's her. They also end up becoming one of my favorite ships. Love them. And there was the twist about finding out that the principal. I mean, you knew the principal was evil and had her own like agenda, but at the same time, it's been so long since I've seen so many of these movies. Like, I don't remember my first reaction, but I don't think I saw coming that she was the red. I would say queen. No, that's not the right word. Red lady. Oh, my knee's hurting. But yeah. So, and then she gets rid of all of her chains, and she was gonna give them to Spectra, but then Porter's like, no, I took all the chains for her. And they even thought Porter had betrayed them, and then it turns out he only did that so he could figure out how she uses that key to get her chains off and transfer it to him. And yeah, so Porter they did not get off on the right foot. They had issues at the beginning, but they fell for each other, and it was really sweet. And I love when they found all the other ghosts there all of a sudden, and then Porter's like, we're a duo. Sorry, it's just so sweet. And then Spectra's like, we're not a duo. And then she flies off, and then Porter's like, duo! Flies off, and then Opera and Johnny and Scarrow all just look at each other like, we see what's going on. Yeah, so, and then, the Red Lady tries to leave, no longer having those chains that balance her. They were like a punishment for all of her hauntings. But, then all of a sudden more chains come, and she thinks Spectra doing it. She's like, no, it's you guys that's doing it. Oh yeah, and I forgot, they get a hold of Twyla's, they all become ghosts. I love when they're trying to learn how to fly. And because Twyla's dad has boogie sand. And then the Red Lady and her minions get a hold of it and turn people almost like ghosts. So that they can send more chains away. But then she couldn't leave, and more chains were coming, and Spectra's like, you're doing it because even though you are doing this, deep down you know it's wrong. All this stuff you did. And then she's like, okay, if you guys would like to have me, I'll still be principal and stuff. So she did get good, become good, I guess. So yeah. But I love that movie. Number 2 is Price Camera Action. I love this movie. Has lots to do with Dracula, so of course I love it. And Lord Stoker, which is the uncle of her childhood friend Elizabeth. Lord Stoker wanted to keep ruling as ruler of all vampires, but the council needed a vampire queen. So he ended up finding Dracula, who he thinks can be easily manipulated or tricks her into thinking she's the next vampire queen. But she finds out that it was wrong, convinces him that she'll keep doing it, only to run away with her friends. They go on this big adventure, meet a lot of new monsters, trying to find the real vampire queen, who turned out to be she found out Rebecca's father had something to do with this, and so did her father. And they go on this journey to find the vampire queen, and then find the movie star who Dracula is not a fan of. And but Lord Stoker finds her, and then it's like, you will do as I say. And then the movie star comes, and it's like, no, you are on my set. And then and Abby and Gulia follow them there, because they and Operetta. I think Operetta was part of that too. And then because they figured out that because while all this was happening, this movie did have something to do with Twilight too, which made me happy because I love Twilight. It was like at school while they were on this journey, everyone was fighting each other because it's like which boy from the movie star is perfect, and the entire time Gil's like, aren't they? Don't they look exactly alike? And then Twyla becomes the judge because she's the entire time she's like, you can't judge a bat by its wings. And then they find out that the two guys are actually the same. And then through that app that Ghoulia used, Ghoulia and Abby and Alberta found out that, I want to say Abby was part of it, but maybe I'm wrong. I know Ghoulia and Operetta were. But they find out that Elizabeth is the booby star, and just as they went to tell Claudine and stuff, Elizabeth reveals herself, and she throws Los Durker out, and then she accepts her crown as vampire ruler, and it's like, and none of this wouldn't be because of my good friend Draculaura, who made me realize that, I forgot what she said, but it was really sweet. And then they gave her full vampire powers because she didn't have at the time, because you have to do something like worthy to get your full vampire powers. So they gave it to her, and she was able to turn to bad stuff, and she found her destiny and stuff, and her big thing, which she's been looking for to get her full vampire powers. So yeah, and I absolutely loved it. And then my number one is Why Do Ghouls Fall in Love? Yay! I love this movie. Another one that's faces around Draculaura, and this entire movie is about how big of a heart she has. She has the biggest heart of any monster, and that's why Valentine wants her. Valentine was her ex. She left him because she had to move to Monster Island, but then she met Claude, and Claude isn't exactly romantic, and she was torn between which one. You know, Valentine because of how sweet and romantic he is, but Claude because of, well, he's Claude. And then she realized that Claude is her true love, and then Valentine ends up hypnotizing her. It was just hard at first because she had willpower, but then she came to it and dumped Claude for Valentine, which made Claude all angry and sad. And then they found out that, and they knew something was wrong, and Draculaura all of a sudden didn't want anything to do with her party either, which she wanted this party because it's for sweet 1600, and then all she cared about was Valentine. And then they found out that Valentine's like trying to steal her heart for his trophy like everyone else, and the reason why he wanted Draculaura and why he was willing to go all the way to Monster Island to get Draculaura's heart is because she has the biggest heart of any monster, so it's like this big conquest. And Torla ends up helping him too because she was invited to the party, and yeah, she was surprised why she wasn't invited. Like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with Torla? Anyways, so they convince Valentine that to get Draculaura to go to the party, and then they concocts a plan thanks to Cupid, because at this point Cupid and Claude accidentally got hit with arrows falling in love, and then Claudine's the entire time getting frustrated. It's hilarious to watch. But then Twilight gets behind the bow, starts hitting everyone starts falling in love. It was really weird, but and then Frankie ends up getting the bow, breaks Claude and Draculaura's, Claude and Cupid up, because they were aware of each other now. They're like, wait a minute, I don't love you. And then Claude was originally going to give Draculaura a box of memories of these two of them shared. Everyone told him it was stupid. Turns out that's the one thing that could save Draculaura from Valentine's grip. And Valentine was like this close to getting Draculaura, and the reason why it was taking so long is because Draculaura's true love is Claude, so it was really hard for him to get Draculaura to fully love him because of her undying love for Claude. But then Claude shows her the memories. Valentine kind of ties him up, and then Draculaura looks at them, and she starts remembering all these stuff, and then all of a sudden she's out of his spell, and then Claude is freed from her love, and then they share a really nice moment. It was just really sweet, and then Valentine is defeated. Torla and him both run off, and it's just so sweet, and I love it. and I love Draculaura, and I love Draculaura and Claude, and yeah, so it was really sweet. So no wonder this is my favorite movie. I absolutely love it. So yeah, that's my list for least favorite Monster High movie to my favorite Monster High movie. Yay! So yeah, that is all. Please like and subscribe and comment your favorite Monster High movies, and if you give it a listen, that we'll chat below. So I'll talk to you guys later.